Welcome to the Scilla Jumpsuit Sew-Along video. The jumpsuit pattern is available as an instant digital download on the Sewillow Etsy shop. For this sew-along, I will be making the View B option with tapered legs in an olive-coloured corduroy fabric. Start by reading the instruction document to see which print option you need. I'm going to be printing at home on A4 paper. For those of you using the large copy shop option, you can skip the next part of the video to where I start cutting my fabric. If printing at home, check that you are printing at actual size or 100% and test print page 1 only. Now measure the print test box to make sure it's accurate. Now continue to print the rest of your pages. I like to gather a few pages together and snip the corners. I then proceed to fold the edge of the next page before matching and gluing them together. Continue this method for the next row of pages, but as you'll notice, I'm now folding both the top and one side edge of the page before gluing. Next, I'll be marking my size on the pattern with a highlighter before cutting out my paper pattern pieces. Now I'm going to lay my pattern onto the fabric. Remember to check that the nap of the fabric is running in the same direction for all pieces. This is especially important for corduroy. I'm now marking my 13mm seam allowances by drawing dots around my pattern pieces with a chalk pencil. Following the markings, I'm cutting through my folded fabric all the way around the front, the back and the pocket pieces. I'm using tailor's tacks to mark my pocket placements, and I'll use this method for marking the leg dots too. I love how you only have to mark everything once with this method. Now that my pattern markings are done, I'm going to move on to the pockets. I'm using an overlocker to finish the raw edges on all sides of the pockets, but you can use a zigzag stitch on a regular machine instead. At my ironing board, I'll now once again check the direction of the fabric nap, and then I'm going to turn over and press the seam allowance at the top edge. With my matching thread, I'm top stitching along this edge on each pocket. Back at my ironing board, I'm going to continue folding and pressing the seam allowances on the remaining pocket edges. Using the pocket markings on the two front pieces, I'll now pin my pockets in place with the openings at the top. I'm then top stitching these in place, sewing quite close to the edge around the three sides. Having pre-pressed the pocket seam allowances, they should already look quite neat. On the wrong side of the fabric where the darts have been marked, I'm joining the dart markings and pinning along this line, leaving a long tail, and without backstitching, I'm sewing from the tip of the dart down to the ankle, and then I knot the thread tail at the top. Placing the front pieces with the right sides facing together, I'm pinning from the crotch up to the center neckline. I'm stitching along the seam edge, taking care not to stretch the curves of the crotch area. And now I'm just repeating the step with the back pieces, matching the right sides facing and pinning from the crotch up to where the shoulder straps start, and then again stitching along this edge. I'm now going back to my overlocker to finish the raw edges on both of these seams. Unfolding the two jumpsuit pieces, I'm going to match up the crotch and inner leg of the front pieces with the back pieces. Where the crotch seams meet, I'm pinning the seam allowances to opposite sides. I'm then continuing to pin the inner leg edges together. I'll now be stitching all the way along the inner leg edges from ankle to ankle. Next up, I'm matching the outer edges of the front and the back pieces, pinning from the underarm down to the ankle edge on both sides, and then stitching along these seams. And back at my overlocker to finish the raw edges. I'm cutting a 10cm length of elastic and then pinning the center of the elastic to the center back seam, just below the straps. I forgot to film this bit initially, so I'm demonstrating on some scraps. I then stretch the elastic as I pin it and also stretch it out as I sew all the way around the edges. With all the seam edges done, all we have left to do is the hemming. Here's how I like to do my rolled hems on curves. I fold over a 5mm hem and sew near the folded raw edge using a long stitch. I then slightly gather this stitch line. This is going to make folding a second time much neater on the curves and prevents the hems from curling. So at my ironing board, I continue the gathering, and then I like to press these gathered edges before continuing. Now I fold over at that stitch line and press once more to create the rolled hem edge. I'm clipping these edges down so that they don't unroll, and then I'm heading back to my sewing machine to stitch these hems. As I'm making the tapered leg version of the jumpsuit, I'm simply finishing the lower leg edge with a single folded hem. The Scilla Jumpsuit Pattern is available on the Etsy store. Please let me know in the comments if you would like to see more of these sew-along videos. I'd also love to see your version of the jumpsuit, so please tag us on Instagram.